Okay, so we're opening the web call. I can see we already have a few people joining us. Welcome to those who are coming in right now. We're just going to give it 1 minute just to let anybody who is waiting to join us join the Zoom room. So we'll just give it a few seconds and let people come in. We're expecting like a few people with us today. It might be a little bit less busy than the morning session, but we'll see. This morning we had around 60 to 70 participants, which was very nice. So let's see if we can meet that today in the afternoon or whatever time it is, wherever you are. This morning we had people from New Zealand and other countries. So I think we're being joined from various time zones today. So let's just give it a second for people to come in. And in the meantime, I will just explain a little bit about the format of this session. So my name is Rebecca and I work in the International Marketing and Recruitment team. And I'm hosting this event this afternoon. And I'm joined by some of our absolutely lovely student ambassadors who are here to share their experience of student life. You may recognize some of them from our Unibuddy platform because they're all available to chat with on our Unibuddy scheme, which some of you may have already used. And today they will be kindly sharing their experiences. And we will start with a short presentation about student life, and then we will move to the Q&A part of the session where you can ask questions. So please do utilize the Q&A function of the Zoom. Please note we will really focus on student life in this session. So if you have a question that's more to do with eligibility or real specifics about the programs or something that is not really to do with student life, then I will actually direct you to our contact form where our full-time staff will be available to help you. But in this session, we want to make the most of having our lovely student ambassadors with us. So I will start with my presentation, and while I'm doing that, it should take about 10 to 15 minutes. And while I'm doing that, then I'm hoping that some of you will ask some questions in the Q&A. And if you see a question that you're very interested in, that you think is great, please upvote it as well, and then we will make sure to prioritize that. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now so that we can actually start with the presentation. Okay, I hope everybody can see this. We will start with a brief summary of what this will cover. So we're going to talk a little bit about student life at Lund, sports and exercise, cultural activities, outdoors and nature, city life in Skåne, and then we'll have our Q&A. So starting with a little bit about student life, we have some things at Lund which are very unique, and one of the most unique, I would say, is our student nations. These are basically student-run social clubs, and they're welcoming to everybody. The activities can include things like lunches, brunches, pub events, nightclubs, sports, and social events. And I sometimes like to compare them to like Hogwarts houses, but I don't know if this is the most accurate, really. I think they have something in common with maybe like a fraternity or a sorority in the US, but also in my experience, very wholesome and friendly. So anyway, we'll definitely talk a little bit about that during this session, I'm sure, but something to check out. It's easy to join a nation, and once you join one, you can attend events at any of them. And each nation has its own building located around the city. So we really recommend becoming active in a nation as a way to make new friends. We also have student unions, and recently QS has actually mentioned us as being really high up in terms of our governance. And one of the reasons for this is because we have a lot of student involvement at all levels. So unions, we have 8, 1 per faculty, and the unions represent students in decision and policy-making boards that concern education in every level at Lund. They run things like welcome events, career fairs, and some really wonderful balls as well, like formal dinners. We also have the Academic Society, which is run by and for students with the purpose of gathering and broadening cultural aspects of student life. Activities include debates and interviews, a really great radio station, student theatre, lectures, art exhibitions, cultural events, and also they have a great study space and cafe. So as you can see, a lot going on. We also have Student Lund, which is a membership that allows you access to the student nations, unions, and the academic society all at the same time. So we really recommend that you join there. The student associations are brilliant. There's so many of them. As we say here, nearly 100 student organizations. So there really should be something for everybody. And they're a great way to meet people and bond over a shared interest. And we host every year a student association fair during the orientation program. Now on to sports and exercise. So one thing that I always like to mention when we talk about this is that in Sweden, there is really a general culture where, I mean, every single Swedish person I know is involved in some kind of sport. And it's something that I think is part of the culture to have some personal investment in health and exercise. I don't know, but that's the feeling I get. So, of course, there are many opportunities to keep fit and participate in sports. There are various kind of levels for this. So we have student nation sports, student associations, local sports clubs, and community sports facilities. And there are many indoor and outdoor gyms as well around the city. Now, cultural activities. So this is one of our lovely museums, and we have many museums in Lund, some of which are even on the university campus, such as the Skissernes Museum, which is a museum that shows the progress of creating art. So it's a museum of sketches, which I think is just wonderful and unique. We also have museums such as Kulturen, where they've gathered lots of the historic buildings from Sweden in one place. And the Historic Museum, where there are some really amazing artifacts from the local area. So there's lots of amazing museums in Lund. But we also have various other cultural activities organized by the student associations, such as music, choirs, drama, Specs, which is like a kind of interactive comedy theatre, politics, and more. And in Lund, Helsingborg, and Malmö, you will also find not only museums, but also music venues, cinemas, art galleries, and theatres. So lots to do there. And of course, we can't really talk about the cultural life of Sweden without talking about the outdoors, because we're such an open country in that regard. There's lots of outdoor space. So maybe not on a day like today when it's snowing, but generally speaking, you will definitely be able to find a number of places to enjoy the beautiful outdoors. You can jog, you can cycle, visit some of our many parks. Malmö is sometimes called the city of parks. We also have a beautiful botanical gardens right near where I work, actually, and it's lovely. And lots of great beaches on the southern coast of Sweden in Malmö, Lomma, and Helsingborg. We have some very nice national parks. One of them is shown here. I think this is probably Söderåsen. And we also have opportunities for hiking, diving, and rock climbing. So lots of different things that you can do if you like the great outdoors, or you can discover that you like the great outdoors. And then we also have some information here on city life for those of us who maybe aren't so keen on the great outdoors, like myself. There are lots of other options. We have some great cities where our campuses are located as well. So obviously most of our programs are taught in Lund, but we also have some programs taught in Malmö, and so many students choose to live there. It's only 10 minutes away by train, and it's Sweden's third largest city. It has a great food scene, lots of independent restaurants and cafes and things like this. So it's a great place to visit or live. Also, 30 minutes by train is Helsingborg, which is Sweden's fastest growing city. And it's just a short hop over the Öresund Strait to Denmark from there. Or you can go to Denmark by train, 40 minutes from Lund. You can reach Copenhagen, the capital city of Denmark. So that's a brilliant place to explore also. Okay, so that was our sort of brief whistle-stop tour through some aspects of student life, but we will now actually open the floor to questions. I can see that we have not so many in the Q&A yet, but I'm hoping that we get a few more. I will stop sharing my presentation now, and we can have a look and see what we've got going on in here. Okay, so we've actually got from one of these questions, we've actually got many areas that we can talk about, which is brilliant. Okay, so let's go through these and maybe we'll kind of take it one by one. So we've got a question first about what the housing is like at Lund University. And then more specifically, what services do they usually have? For example, kitchen, dining rooms, and common areas. So would anybody like to perhaps share a little bit about their housing and what it looks like?
Sure.
Okay, thanks,
Yes.
Marie.
Yeah, my name is Marie. I'm studying the mathematics bachelor program and I'm from Costa Rica. Just hello, everyone.
Of course, sorry, I forgot to tell you to introduce yourselves. Let's do that
Okay.
first, then we'll go in the housing. Sorry. So yes, thank you, Marie. And then I'll ask the others to introduce themselves too. So Benedict.
Hey everyone, I'm Benedict from Mauritius. I'm doing my master's in development studies. It's written. And since nothing else is written, that's it.
That's all we need to know for now. Thank you, Benedict. Aziz, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everybody, and Rebecca as well. I'm Aziz. I'm studying the second year of my master in chemistry at Lund University, and yes, I'm working right now on my thesis. So glad to start that, and it's near to finish. And then yes.
And which country are you from, Aziz? Sorry.
Well, actually, I'm from Afghanistan.
Cool.
Yes.
Nice to. Thank you. And Vapu?
Hi everyone, my name is Vappo. I'm from Finland, or I was born in Finland, but then raised in Belgium. And I'm a first year master's student in environmental studies and sustainability science.
Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, now back to Marie.
Yeah.
Let's hear a little bit about your experience with housing, if that's okay.
Yes, for the first 2 years, I live with LU accommodation because I had housing guarantee because I'm a citizen outside the European Economic Area. So I live in a corridor room which had like the bed and a desk and my own private bathroom, and I shared the common spaces like the kitchen, living room, dining area, the balcony. I have to say that I had such a great experience in a corridor. At the beginning, I was a bit afraid of living with strangers, which I think it's a very normal fear to have. But if you have the chance to live with people from all over the world, I would definitely say try it because you get to learn so much just by normal stuff like cooking next to someone and see what they eat or just talk about their traditions, and there's so much of your perspective that would change when you are in such close community in a corridor. So I would say that if you're afraid of a corridor, I was too, but it was very nice.
Thanks so much. Okay, Aziz, you raised your hand. Would you like to?
Yes. Actually, I mean the first year I lived in a corridor, and right now I'm living in an apartment, single room apartment. So I experienced both of them. I mean the first year I remember I lived in a corridor. That consists 6 people, included me, and we were from different countries. I remember one guy from Germany, Netherlands, China, Iran, and then they changed because they were an exchange student. Then different people comes from Italy, and wow, and it was a very good experience. And you live in a like small place in a like in a corridor that is so multinational environment. So I learned a lot about the culture of their countries, and they learned about the cultures of my country. And then sometimes we cooked together, and then I remember that I made like a food from my own country, and then they taste, and then in another week they actually made their own foods, and then we taste. It's kind of good experience. Yeah, I mean living in a corridor for the first year, I think it's very, very good experience. Don't miss that.
That sounds great and very social. And Vapu?
So I guess I'm kind of maybe the odd one out here, but I live in private accommodation actually.
Oh yeah,
So
because I guess you're EU citizen, is that right? So
yes,
yeah,
yes.
so that would be a
So
slightly different.
Yeah, exactly. Even for EU students, just for everyone's information, you can opt to apply for AF-bostäder. That's what they call it. It's a lot of people apply there, and you usually have like a queuing time for a room that you might get. But since during my bachelor's in the Netherlands, I was more used to looking at private housing accommodation, from the private sector. So for me, it was easier to just opt for that. There's one very popular website called Boopoolen. So personally, I got my room from there. And yeah, basically, I share the house with my landlord, and I have all kinds of services and utensils available to me. So that's also an option for anyone who's wondering out there.
Very helpful. Thank you so much. And I've just shared a link in case anybody wants to have a look at those different housing options, including the links to those associations and websites that you were just mentioning. So that's great. Okay, the next question is, how is the transportation from your residence to your university usually done? Is it bike, train, bus? So maybe I can ask Benedict if you want to say something on this.
Lund is very small. When my island, I come from Mauritius, which was already small. It's even smaller than that. So everything is within walking distance. Many people bike as well. You can take the bus if you live a bit further away, but then further away means 10 minutes by bus. So things are very close to each other, which is very nice. And we have a luxury of not waking up too early or traveling long distances to go to classes or to campus. If you live outside Lund, let's say if you live in Malmö, as we were saying, there's the train, which is very convenient. Even Helsingborg is a bit up north, but it's still 20-30 minutes by train. So transport-wise, you have no problem. Yeah, you have options.
Great, thank you. And actually, there was a related question. What is the best way to get to Copenhagen from Lund? But I think we kind of answered this already, that train is the easiest way because it just crosses straight over the bridge. Of course, you can also get like car transportation, like even if you don't have a car, you could do a taxi, but you don't want to do that. It's expensive. The train is way more simple. So okay, the next question is actually about the facilities on campus. So are there cafeterias at the university? Maybe we can broaden that a little bit more and ask, maybe you can describe a little bit about the facilities on campus and what kinds of things are available. Would anybody like to answer this specifically, or maybe I can go to Aziz? Yeah.
Yes. Well, actually, I'm a chemist, and the Department of Chemistry here in Lund, I think, is one of the biggest campus in Europe. So I remember the first day, not the first day, just the first week or 2 weeks, I lost my way. Which entrance should I go to reach to for example, lecture hall A or lecture hall B? Because there are lots of entrances. Then, the good thing is here at Chemi Centrum, or our department, chemistry, there are lots of corridors, and in these corridors there are round tables with chairs. And I was surprised at the first day, and I came that, okay, students just are studying in the corridor and you're passing them, and they're studying together. This is a good option that I've never seen in my life before. It was very good at studying together in this corridor, round tables, speaking, very good. And another thing is also there are very, like, if you are going to study private, there are specific rooms which is completely you are alone, or if you are going to study, for example, with 2 or 3 people, there are specific rooms for that. So I think these kind of facilities are very, very helpful to like study and make made your progress. Yes.
Great. And I guess all of you will have a cafe and a library at somewhere in your building, right? Yeah, that's standard. There will always be at least one.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Vaku, did you want to add something?
Yeah, actually, just I was about to go into the cafeteria question more, and it's not set in stone. So there are lots of different buildings in the Lund University campus, and usually it's if say you're in the social science building, you don't necessarily have to always stay there. Like personally, I am from the social science faculty, so I often go to the humanities. I've gone to the mathematics cafeteria. I've like explored these different buildings. So definitely, I mean, it's up to you which cafeteria you like the most. So you have a lot to explore.
And Marie?
For sure. And if you, it's just because our city is completely integrated with the university, you can just walk to a little restaurant and just have lunch there too. And all the cafes and all the restaurants in Lund have student prices, or Dagens Lunch, which means is the price of the lunch of the day, which is usually very affordable for students. And everything is so close by that you can have food from all over the world every day if you want. Or one of the great things is that if you're bringing food from home, these cafeterias in campus have microwaves, so you can warm up your food too.
That's nice, and that's a great way to save a little money as well by preparing your own lunch. But like you said, even the prices for Dagens and for student food is really quite reasonable, I feel. And also the food, sometimes you can get Dagens at the Nations, and they're made by students, and that's very reasonable as well. So yeah, lots of options. Okay, the next question was actually, what sports can you do at university? Well, there's a lot. We started to kind of talk about it. I will leave a link on the right-hand side, where on the chat, sorry, where some of these are listed. I don't know if anybody wants to speak about this from their own experience, or do we have any sporty people here today? Yes, Vapu.
Well, there's this big gym that a lot of students go to called Hallen. So I've yet to go there due to just personal injuries and stuff. So I haven't been able to go there yet, but I've looked at their website and heard from friends who do go there that there are a lot of different classes you can take, from yoga to heat to power pump, all kinds of different things. So definitely they have a lot to offer.
Brilliant, thank you. And I will go to that. There was a question here about what kind of activities does the city have. We've sort of covered that a little, I hope. But the next question was, is there a voucher for public transport for students? Yes, the answer is yes. I don't know if we even really need to speak about that very often, but you can get a student discount with your Mecenat card. And I definitely recommend that you do that. And then the last question from this one student, this was all still the same questions, was what area is best to live in Lund? So would anybody like to answer that question about what area you feel is best? I mean, if you're living in student accommodation, then everything is quite central. So you're really in the center of Lund, but I don't know, Vapu, where do you live? Because you got your private accommodation.
Yeah, so I actually live near to a student accommodation area called Sparta. So for me, I mean, I have a bike. The bike is my best friend. I always say that to people. So by bike, it's I think 10 minutes to my study building. And yeah, I'd say that anything like in the center or around it, even the furthest, so to say, student accommodation places, they're actually not that far away. So I feel like all areas are good areas, I'd say.
Yeah, you can't really go wrong, can you, in Lund? Like, it's not, because there's such good public transportation. Even if you're outside of Lund, it's still quite easy. Marie, did you want to add something?
Yes, because I got with LE accommodation one of the furthest housing areas, and people are sometimes afraid, oh, I got Edan, and it looks like it's almost 4 kilometers away from city center, and everyone is like, oh no, what am I going to do? But it's just not as bad, you know. You have the bus and it passes like every 5 minutes, and you just jump in there if it's the winter, if you can just bike. But really the public transportation system here is so efficient and is so good, and you just have this Skånetrafiken app in your phone and you have your ticket there and you just jump. And about the discount for transportation, I feel like that is the biggest thing why you should get Student Lund membership, because it's a 25% discount for public transportation. So I think that is such a great way, especially in days like today, in which I am afraid of biking because I'm afraid of falling with the icy roads. Maybe Vapu is more of a brave girl in the bike or something, because I just prefer taking the bus, and it's just like a 15-minute ride from Edan, and it's fine, you know? So don't be afraid if you get somewhere around 4 kilometers or 5 kilometers. The city is very well connected anyways.
That's so good to know. Thank you. Okay, we have a question actually geared towards Vapu here, and it says this person is considering applying for a master's in environmental studies or environmental management, and they want to ask, what is the student life like in the environmental master's program? And there was a second question that's more about the program, about differentiating environmental studies and environmental management, which I don't know if you are able to really go into that part, but perhaps mainly focusing on the student life within the program.
Yeah, so actually I think it's easier for me to answer the other question.
Well, feel free, that's okay.
So at least to my knowledge, in terms of masters, there's my masters, which I mean, I'm just gonna use the abbreviation LUMES, so sustainability science related. Then there's another one called human ecology, and a third one called environmental management and policy. And I think the main difference is, because I've also talked with people from those different programs, the main differences are that my program is more specifically focused on sustainability science, which is a transdisciplinary field of studies. So we incorporate a lot of different perspectives. Human ecology, from what I've understood, is more cultural, it's more sociological, it's more, I think, anthropological as well. So leaning toward that direction, also philosophy a bit. And environmental management and policy is more public administration and business related. So those are kind of the main differences. But from my understanding as well, everything still focuses on, you know, the issue at hand, which is the environment and sustainability issues. So whichever you choose to apply to, or whichever you get into, I feel like it's a good choice. And I feel like student life, in my program, we don't have like a separate student life. So it's just what you've also, Rebecca, mentioned in your presentation. So we, as a group, go to nations and other events and other kind of festivals. We've done that. But I know that in terms of like sustainability related things, there is a student association called Hållbart Universitet, which is like Sustainability University, kind of an association for students where you can volunteer and do sustainability related projects. So I hope that answered the questions.
Yeah, and I would say that because, you know, most of the time people are joining together for things like nations, and maybe you're going to socialize with your classmates, but then you'll also join people from other programs as well. Some schools have quite specific culture, like LTH, for example, does some extra engineering programs, does some extra things, I think, but I don't think we have anybody here today from LTH. So we ignore that for now, but but I would say most of the activities are going to be some shared activities really between different faculties, so you're not really isolated to one particular program. Okay, the next question: are all these concerts and festivals in English or strictly in Swedish? And maybe we can talk a little about the use of English and Swedish in society around Lund, with a little focus on this. Would anybody like to speak on this topic specifically? Or otherwise, maybe we go to Benedict. Cool.
Yeah,
Benedict and then Aziz.
Yeah, so it's nice in Lund in general, let's say, because many people speak English, so you can easily switch. Festivals and concerts, maybe referring to the pictures in the presentation. You have a few concerts in the church, Domkyrka, of a cathedral, big church. Some of them
The
would
one
be
that's behind you, I think, in your picture.
that's
Actually. Yeah.
I'm there. It's usually in Swedish, but everyone is welcome. So usually, even if you don't understand everything, it's a nice atmosphere just to be inside the church. And yeah, and going back to, I don't know, 1200 years ago, the cathedral is 900 years. So yeah, it's very old. There's also on campus this Universitet Huset, which is the white building, which is not, it's one of the famous buildings that you see on photos. And it's not generally open to every day, but I have been able to go twice inside for some choir, some concerts. I don't know how we call it, but it was the university choir performing, and it was in Swedish. But again, you just enjoy. Music is universal. I always say that. And if you want some less Swedish speaking festivals and concerts, then you should look at Sweden in general, and you can just take a train to go to Helsingborg or Gothenburg. Music festivals are everywhere. Stockholm, Beyonce was there in May. I mean, just I would end that. And here, but yeah, so you have a lot
That's
of
all you need to know. That Beyonce.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, a lot of options both in Lund and around Sweden.
And Aziz?
Well, I think Benedict covers most of the parts, but in my opinion, it's like in the government, I mean, in communication in the society, that you will not have any problem, because I think Sweden is in the top list of European countries that most of the people can speak English as a second language. So you will not have any problem with that. In some very specific cases, I mean, like people who are like, especially they're old, they might not be able to speak English, but most of the people, youngs, and also in middle ages people actually are able to speak very well in English. And about the academia, you will not have any problem with that in master level, but bachelor levels are actually held in Swedish. Exception, some, I think 7 to 8 programs are in bachelor also as well in English. So I think you will not have any problem with the language in Sweden, especially in Lund.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, now we have a question. What does the process of joining a nation look like? And I think maybe I can just quickly answer that, since it's quite a standard thing, which is that you sign up for Student Lund, and then you have the opportunity to join a nation. And I think most people actually go to the nation in person and just ask to sign up during their first week here. But I don't know if anyone else did it a different way. That's how I did it when I was here. Oh, okay, yeah.
Just to add to that, usually like in the beginning of the first semester, they have like a 2-week period where you can visit any nation, and you just walk in, and usually they have some people from the board or working for the nation, and you just say, hello, I'd like to join your nation, and then you just do the application there, and then it's done. So it's
yeah,
easy as
that's
that.
definitely the simplest way, I would say. And it's like worth mentioning again that just because you join one nation doesn't mean you can't take part in all of the activities for the other nations as well. So sometimes people are a bit worried about which one to pick, but it's not so important. It's okay if you join the nearest one and then go to others or whatever. But okay, the next question is, how are the nightlife activities in Lund? Who wants to answer this question and talk about being a party person? Actually, it's quite funny because there is this question, and then a little bit further down, there's somebody who's saying, I am an introvert. What can I do in Lund? So maybe some of you feel more like you want to answer the introvert question, and some of you feel more like, no, I can answer the party question. But I don't know which one you fall into. So Aziz, which one are you? Are you introvert or nightlife?
I'm completely an extrovert person.
Oh, okay.
So I can like mention about the parties and nightlife. For me actually, I found some people from Iran, so we can speak in Persian. So there's no problem with that, and we will have our like gathering at the weekend and have like playing games together, board games, and also some kinds of group games, thinking in group like thinking games. One of them is Mafia, which is very interesting game. So this is my schedule. One day is like 4 to 5 or 6 hours at the weekend. We gather and then like play games together. But the other option is the nations. I think each nations have some like events, maybe once or twice a week. So they gather together, they like play music, they dance, and then yeah, this kind of things. And they might have lunch or dinner. So this is another option for like spending your time at the weekend.
Great. Vapu?
Yeah, so I feel like, because I consider myself as an ambivert, so I can lean to the extrovert and the introvert side. So adding to that, actually, what Aziz said, in terms of the nations, usually they have like weekly regular nightlife events. So it's usually like pubs or clubs. I believe Smalllands has a club every Saturday. I think Kalmar has it on Friday or Wednesday. I can't remember by heart. But there are usually these set days which each nation has like nightlife events. But in my experience and what I've heard from other people as well, most activities, especially by nations and associations, are very much like daytime activities. So just because you don't necessarily want to partake in nightlife or you don't feel like it's your thing doesn't mean that you don't have any less opportunities. So yeah, and just to give a concrete example, the same nation called Smålands, they actually have this thing called People's Kitchen every Thursday. So you can volunteer to cook and then you just have dinner together, no alcohol or anything involved.
Very nice. And Marie, I think you wanted to. Which one are you?
Oh, I don't know. But I feel like maybe I'm not a nightlife person so much. But I have to say that even if you're not, I would recommend to try going to a nation once to see what the party looks like at night here in Lund. Or you can just go to a party in a corridor or the TDC or these things. Uh, Maybe these definitions of I'm not a party person, it doesn't mean that you have to just go and drink or something. I just go and I talk to my friends, and that's nice. And we listen to things, and it's just very fun, especially for the birthday parties. Maybe is a very heavy party, but I'm just waiting for the cake. So even if you're not into that very intense party life, you can still enjoy parts of it. So I would say once you're here in Lund, give it a try.
Yeah, that's a great message. And I'm not a party person, but I heard good things about the Malmö nightlife as well, and that's not far away. So I think that even Lund is like maybe a little bit smaller city with a bit more of a low-key scene, but like Malmö has a big scene. So if you really want to go for that full-on like party life, then Malmö is there as well. We have quite a few upvotes for a question about housing again. So I think we started to cover this. The question is, do you need to apply for an apartment and how long does it take to find an apartment? So I think, Marie, you did kind of talk about this because you talked about living in the university housing. And as we maybe kind of started to cover, there is a bit of a difference if you're EU or non-EU nationality. But would you like to perhaps just mention again, Marie, the process as a non-EU student for applying for housing? When do you do that? What's it like? And how long does it usually take before you get an answer?
Sure. I understand that if you're coming from very far away, it's a very stressful, because where am I going to live in this place that I don't know anything about? So, LE accommodation, which is offered again for the non-EU citizens, students who come here, once you have your admissions, LE accommodation will open the application. And once it's open, you're supposed to make your application. You have to choose a list of preferences for the housing areas that you want or the type of room, if you want a studio, a 2-bedroom apartment, or a corridor. It is good to give the disclaimer that you might not get your first choice, but if you have housing guarantee, you will get a place with LU accommodation. So even if you don't get the place that you wanted, I highly recommend you do take it, because it is better for you to have that safety net before coming here. And once you're here, if you want to change to other thing, then at least you have that safety place, and then you can look around and other things. And for the non-EU students, which a lot of my friends are from Europe, there's a lottery, or the Novish lottery, for the AF Bostäder, which is sort of like the LE accommodation application that you have to sign up, but they will give you like a random queue number. And for that, you have to like keep looking at your queue number, and you start applying for the different options that you get. I would say that I was a bit worried for my application with LU accommodation, because it was sort of like July, and I was like, okay, it's like a month away for arrival day. What is happening? But they will get to you if you applied on time. I can assure you everything is going to be fine. It's just a lot of people are applying, so they take a while, but you will get your email saying, no, you've been assigned to this place in case you apply with LU accommodation. Don't be scared of that.
Thank you. And then there is a related question, which I think I must address to Vapu, because you're the EU national here, where someone has said, if you are an EU national, is it very hard to find housing if you don't have guaranteed accommodation on campus? So I just want to put that question to you.
I don't think it's too difficult. I mean, the LU accommodation is kind of specifically reserved for the non-EU, just to, you know, have that guarantee. So if you're not, you don't have any guarantee, just to get it out of the way. But I think in that way, you can also try multiple different ways to get housing. So not only is there the bostäder that Marie also talked about, there's also private accommodation. Like I said, you can also try and apply to nation housing. So all nations also have some rooms to spare, so you can try and get those. And then just using Facebook groups, finding them and going on Facebook and seeing what type of people have to offer, or what type of accommodation there is there. So I think my top tip is to start early and use all of these different channels, and then you're good to go. Then you should be fine after that.
Exactly. Thank you. And there was a question about the costs of that housing, but I'm going to leave a link in the chat for budgeting, which will go through some of those facts as well. Aziz, did you just put your hand up? Would you like to add something to this topic?
Yes, I want just to give an advice to EU students, because I had this kind of experience. I'm a non-EU student, but since I am an ambassador at Lund University, so I have a profile at Lund University. So I mean, the prospective students can directly ask questions from ambassadors, so they can choose a program, and then or their country, students from all over the world. One student from each program is like selected for being an ambassador. So last year I remember that so many people asked me before, as soon as possible they got their admission. So they asked me, how can I get an accommodation as an EU, because I'm not guaranteed. So I told them these kind of websites, and these websites, like AF Boostador and Bupulen is the main sources, and also like there are some specific houses for chemists. So I think the best, this is my advice, chat directly with students, with ambassadors, and then they will guide you with the links. This is better.
Great tip. Thank you so much. I also saw, just while we're still on the topic of housing, that there have been a couple of people asking about housing with pets or with families. I feel very sad to say that unfortunately you can't bring your cat. Like, I'm so sorry to say that, because Oh, wouldn't it be wonderful to bring your cat? But yeah, unfortunately not. But also for family, LU accommodation at least, so the one that is the standard accommodation for non-EU, unfortunately doesn't have accommodation that is suitable for pets or also for families. However, the options which have been discussed for EU citizens may have the opportunity for those kinds of accommodations. So if that's your situation, then maybe you have to look into doing the search for housing yourself in order to find the right thing for you. And also, there's been a couple of questions about schooling and like support for childcare for little children. And I don't know if any of the people here can answer this, but I can because I have a 2-year-old. So I would be happy to just say that the situation in terms of childcare is very good here. We have lots of different opportunities for childcare, and those who are studying can get a certain number of hours of childcare. So it should be possible. But I will also put a link in the chat where you can see a bit more information about coming with family, schooling, and childcare. Because unless any of you would like to mention something about this, but I think that's maybe outside of your your area.
Yes. I mean, I don't have children, but I have met students who come here with their families and they
Yes.
have children and they can go to school and everything is very nice. So even though I cannot speak from experience, I have met people who come with their families and everything is good. Yeah.
Thank you, Marie. Okay, a very popular question here is, even when the programs are in English, should you still focus on learning Swedish in order to meet people, etc., or can you take your time with that? Benedict, we haven't really heard from you lately. Would you like to say anything about this? I don't know whether you have been learning some Swedish lately. I know you work with language stuff sometimes.
Oh, no, I was waiting for this question.
Ah, cool.
Not to do some self-promotion, but I actually wrote a blog for Unibuddy for the ambassador about exactly this. So if you go on this Connect with Students on Lund to find ambassadors to talk to about different topics, you will find a section of blogs. And what I wrote was about how, yes, Lund, Sweden, generally the population is English speaking. They can easily switch. I mean, you won't have a lot of issues with that, especially Lund, I would say. And that's kind of the, I don't want to say criticism, but it's kind of a bubble almost, because Lund is a university city. So people know that you have university students sometimes coming from different parts of the world. So they will speak English almost automatically to you. But as soon as you step out of Lund, it's a different reality because Sweden is quite big. So this natural switch to English is not as direct, let's say. But if you start speaking English, people will answer back in English. You will also have, if you want to learn Swedish, you have some courses, or this SFI, which is Swedish for immigrants. I have not taken the course myself, but if you go to the blog, I would say I'm learning Swedish on my own just by listening to songs, to those festivals and concerts, and also on the internet. So in a way, you can afford to take your time because the population is bilingual. So you don't have this pressure, I will never be able to communicate if I do not speak Swedish. And that personally helps me to give myself time to learn without any pressure of doing exams or anything. And I can see that I'm enjoying learning the language. It's not, pressure of getting it right, because you will be able to communicate. Learning Swedish then becomes a choice or something if you really want to, continue living in Sweden, or working eventually. Yes, that would be helpful. But yeah, you won't perish if you do not speak Swedish.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really wonderful when you're in the shops and the cafes here in Lund and you hear the staff speaking English because it's a shared language as well. So it's a nice, like you said, there's a slight difference between what it's like here in Lund and even in Malmö, I would say, and outside of these cities. So great, thank you so much. There's a question here which is maybe a quick one to answer. It says, how much does it cost to eat per day? I don't know if you can really think of it that way, though. I don't know if anybody has made that calculation in that way. but maybe we can say how much it costs to eat at like a standard nation Dagens, for example. And then like, yeah, I don't know if anyone
I
can
say something. I mean, I'm very having close eye on my budget all the time. Just to give you some perspective, €1 is 10 crowns ish, $1 as well, 10 crowns. So one meal at a nation could be around 50 or 60 crowns, and that includes of a meal and sometimes a dessert as well. If you want to go to a restaurant, it could be around 100 crowns, so 110, 120. And then when we go to these lunch meals deals, this could go around 80 crowns. So I would say in the middle of the nations and the general public restaurant. And then in cafeterias as well, you have some sandwiches, which would be 60, 70 crowns, salads, 80. So you have around this price range. The cheapest would be 50, and the most expensive meal could be 120, I would say. So just to give you an idea.
I think people will find that so helpful. Vapo, did you want to add something or?
Yeah, I was actually just about to say the same thing what Benedict said. But yeah, just as an addition, like even the cafeteria options, and I think most lunch options that you have here, it's actually good quality food. So it's not just like some lettuce and tomatoes and you pay 50 crowns. Like you actually get a full meal, and it's usually also a warm meal. So that's nice, especially during winter times. And in terms of personal budgets, I'd say that it really depends on like your personal diet and where you do your groceries. Like that makes the biggest difference. So it really is, it comes down to the individual.
Exactly. Okay, great. Related question. Do you have an Asian market in Lund? I think the answer is yes. But I haven't been. I don't know if anybody's been into the like shop. Yeah, Benedict.
Yeah, I have. It's close to the central station. Well, everything is close to the central station. But it's nice. I don't know if the owners are Vietnamese or from Thailand. I think I heard Vietnamese, but I might be wrong. And it's products from different countries, all over South Asia and Southeast Asia mostly, and East Asia as well. So if you are a fan of Korean food or want to try Vietnamese rolls, I mean, you have your shop there. Yeah.
That's great. And I can say with confidence that also there's lots of options in Malmö as well, if not in Lund, for different kinds of like diet also. So like if you need halal food, or if you need like there's options in many places nearby. And also lots of very good vegetarian options, I would say, as well, in case that's helpful for people, because that's a very common choice here in Sweden. Okay, the next question is, what facilities do we have on campus for disabled people? So I don't know if anybody has experience with this themselves on campus. However, I can share a link to the page that we have about the kinds of support that you have on campus. And I can say for sure that we do have lots of support available, including things like readers or extra time, depending on the nature of what you need. So I will put that in the chat here, unless anybody also wants to add anything on this topic.
I don't experience this myself, but for example, the public transport is very well adapted for everyone. So just in case, the buses and the trains, everything works very well in case you need some extra support or help that way.
Yeah, that's a good point, which I think we haven't really talked about, but it was one of the things that kind of surprised me in a really good way when I came to Sweden, is these carriages on the trains, which are specifically wide and therefore things like strollers or wheelchairs or anything that requires more space, such as if you have luggage with you, or bikes, for example. So it's really nice that like there's a sort of universal design of those spaces for anybody who needs the extra room. Really cool. Yes, Vapu.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think all the buildings that I've been to on campus, especially for mobility aids like wheelchairs and strollers, like there's not one building where there isn't a lift, at least to the ones that I've been, and I generally feel like the space is quite accessible in that way. And for other types of disabilities, for example, dyslexia, I know that there's the academic support center, right, where you can get some support in terms of your academic life, writing, listening skills, writing, just studying in general. So yeah.
Exactly. Aziz, would you like to add something?
Yes, I had an experience. Last year, I unfortunately had a surgery, but the thing is, like, I stayed and I couldn't like walk for some times. Then I stayed in my bed. But the good thing was the municipality. The municipality of Lund is connected to the hospital, and then they can provide help with with people with disabilities. Like, for example, they sent somebody to my corridor room to cook something for me, and also some days like cleaning and buying stuff from outside and bringing them inside. So this kind of stuff actually was handled by Lund municipality, and the good thing was is actually I was a student, so I didn't have any salary. So based on the salary, they will like spend how much you need to pay. Since I didn't have any salary, so I didn't pay anything. So this was very good for students, and this was, in my experience, it was very good. And in academia, I see some students with disabilities, like people can't read or can hear, and the university supports them. Like if somebody needs help, and actually the international coordinator send an email to the other students. Okay, we have somebody with disability, and then if somebody is eager to help, then like is a kind of part-time job for them to help to like people with disabilities. So yeah, I mean, in academia is also they are supported very well in groups.
That's a really helpful example. Thank you so much. Okay, now we have a question that's quite general. I think all of you could answer this. How hard was it to adapt to student life at Lund, and was it difficult to make friends at first? So I don't know who wants to answer this. Maybe Marie, would you like to speak about this?
Yes. I came to Lund and I was already 25 years old. So I felt like I was a bit old compared to the younger bachelor students. So I was like, oh, are we gonna be able to like relate in a way? But again, I was extremely lucky to live in a corridor, because to these days, these people are my friends 2 years after, even if they moved out or graduated by now. I can just say that even if you think that you are not so good at making friends, Lund is a community. It's not only a city or an university. So here you can always find a place of people that you get along with, even if you're super different.
That's great. Vapu, or was it Aziz? Sorry, we'll do Vapu and then Aziz if you would like to add something.
Yeah, so in terms of adjusting to Sweden, I think I'm again the odd one out because I'm from Finland. So in terms of like culture, it's like very similar. But in terms of like making friends, I'd really suggest everyone to apply to the introduction days. That's where I made my first friends and met people outside of my program. I also met some other friends through the Goin app. I'm not sure if that's up anymore, but there you can basically go to different group chats and channels based on your interests. Yeah, yeah. So I met some people, really cool people there. And obviously, once the program started, I started making friends for my program. And when I joined my choir, I met different people there. So I feel like it's very easy as long as you use these different opportunities and channels to make friends. So yeah.
Great. Actually, I think maybe we have to move to. Oh no, it's okay. We have time. I was like, oh no, we have to finish. No, we don't have to finish. It's okay. We still have time. Aziz, would you like to add something to that topic?
Yes, I think making friends, although I'm an extrovert person, is one of the hardest thing as a student here. although, I mean, you need to be so brave to start a communication, because you found when you come here, you found like people from all over the world, and it's very awkward for some of them, and they are so isolated, so they are not starting to communicate. So you need to be brave and to start a communication and make friendships. And the other thing is also, I mentioned before, it's much better to live in a corridor as a student in your first year, because the corridor, I mean, the roommates would be your best friends during the first year maybe. So this is a good start to like making friends, and then being brave and living in a corridor.
Great, thank you. We actually now have 3 questions about part-time jobs and jobs that are available for international students. So maybe we can ask Benedict and Marie perhaps to talk a little bit about balancing work and studies, and any other information they may have about seeking work. I will just show my video for a second to sort out a small problem with my screen. 1 second. But maybe Marie can start, sorry.
Yes. Well, I feel like there are definitely options for a part-time job. Of course, you need to know how to balance your own schedule. I mean, I cannot go ahead and tell you, yes, you should get one, or you shouldn't, because it really depends on what your priorities are and your work life, study, also entertainment time, and how much you want to do. But I think it's definitely possible to have one. And well, Benedict and I are co-workers actually at the same office. We work for external relations with the university. It is a job fully in English. Thankfully, at the moment, the Swedish is not so well with me, which should tell you that you shouldn't worry so much about the Swedish. I also have some friends who work in restaurants, and they also don't know a lot of Swedish, and they can still manage to find a job. So I would say that it really depends on you, but at the same time, it's okay to have one if you want. Um, of course, if you want to access certain type of jobs, yes, Swedish might be needed, but just keep looking and you can find something.
Wonderful. And then Benedict?
I can say, I think there are 2 things here. You can either look for something on campus. So if you're thinking doing more research, like there's a lot of research assistant opportunities depending on faculties. So you can start looking at that. And I was actually starting looking for those when I came across this position with the external relation teams on campus. So this is in English. And if you're interested in maybe going outside university, yes, then it would be in the wild, and you would be competing, I would say, with people who may not be university students. All in all, if you're deciding that you would like to work on top of your studies, the advice would be that your studies are a priority. So you should not do anything that will burden yourself and will affect your capacity to actually study, because that's why you came to Lund for in the first place. But yeah, let's say once you find a job, the trick will be to balance and be good at organizing different things. I like making lists of things I like to do, and I think what I like is let's say if you have, I don't know, 10 things to do this week, and you feel, oh no, I have 10 things, it's Monday, it's huge. What I do is I like to write them as I go, and I like to scratch them when I'm done with it, so that I have this feeling that even if I can't do everything, at least I was able to do a few things on the list, so I feel good about myself. And I think it's a general advice for everything in terms of, when you have a lot of things going on, even at university, just being grateful of the little steps on the way that will actually make you reach the bigger goal at the end of your project or whatever. So yeah, some tips.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And just to confirm, sorry if one of you said this, but there is no actual limit on the amount of hours that you can work according to your residence permit. But as you both talked about, balancing is the key. So now we have a question that has been upvoted. Did any of you guys get approved for the Lund University scholarship? And if yes, can you tell us about your experience? So I know that Marie, you are a Lund scholar. So, and any of the others here today? No? Okay, so maybe Marie can just speak for a second about the Lund scholarship, Lund University scholarship.
Yes. I applied for the scholarship for 3 years and I got it until the third year. So what I can say is that perseverance is very important in this process, just in case you're feeling a bit frustrated. But it has been such a great experience, not only to have this scholarship, but also what the scholarship represents once you are here. I was very impressed the first year because I got an email saying that I was invited to this dinner, like in the honor of all the scholarship recipients. And the way that they treated us was as, we want you to be here because you are so valuable to us. And I felt like this imposter syndrome of, no, thank you for the scholarship. Thank you for this opportunity. But it has definitely been like the best thing that could have ever happened to me, of course, because I know that a lot of people need it to come here to cover the tuition fees. So I would say that if you haven't gotten it yet, keep trying because it is so worth the wait to be here at Lund.
That's great. Thank you. And Aziz, would you like to add something?
Yes. Fortunately, I got the scholarship for the first year. My first year applying. Yeah. It was a good experience. And I'm going to add the thing is like the competition for this scholarship is so high because I think nearly 200, because after getting the scholarship and entering to Lund, there will be a celebration for people who got the scholarship. And in this list, you will have the list of all people who got the scholarship. And when I checked the names and the numbers, I thought it was nearly 120 or 130 students from all over the world. So it's very competitive. And the thing is like the transcripts, the grades, and also the motivation letter, because you need to write exactly why did you choose these kind of questions as a motivation letter. And you need to send it separately from your application. So these kind of things is very important to get the scholarship.
Thank you so much. I'm sure that will be very helpful for those who are trying to apply. And as you said, it's usually only 1 or 2 people per program that usually get this, if that, like Marie mentioned, sometimes there will not be somebody from that program. So it's very competitive, but very great if you can get it. We now have a question about student accommodation. Are they furnished or do we need to buy home stuff ourselves? So I guess those of you who are living in LU accommodation, maybe Benedict, you want to say what your situation was?
Yeah, I was LU accommodation as well. And it was a corridor. So you will share the bathroom and the kitchen was furnished. So I did not bring any pans. And that was nice because I could not have space in my suitcase for the pants. And the living room as well was furnished. We had a TV on our level. That was fun. And I was watching a few Swedish series on that. So back to this practicing your Swedish skills. So yeah, they are furnished, at least the one I was living in.
Great. Yeah, I think most of them at least come with the basics. Some of them require you to get soft furnishings, but a lot of the time as well, you can pre-order bedding with LU accommodation, so you can pick up a bedding set when you arrive, which is very helpful. Or we also, in the orientation program, usually organize a trip to IKEA. So don't worry if there's something that you missed. There usually is an opportunity to get it as soon as you arrive. And just to confirm as well, somebody asked, when you take university accommodation, is it a room in an apartment with other people or a corridor, as we called it? So just to explain, a corridor is like the standard student accommodation dorm, where you have a corridor with multiple rooms, off that corridor, bedrooms. Some corridor rooms have a bathroom within them, and some have a shared bathroom. And then usually there is a shared living space and kitchen. So that's the standard option, but there are some solo apartments as well. But obviously, generally speaking, the more you share, the cheaper the cost of the accommodation, I would suggest. So that's something to bear in mind when you're making your choices. Anyone want to add anything on housing, or we already kind of did cover that, I think, so we can move forward from there. Okay, a very quick one, which I'm just going to answer. How far is it from Lund to Stockholm? I can answer that it's about a 4.5 hour train journey, and that's the quickest way. Driving is slower than the train, so it's quite far. We're in the very south of the country, which has the advantage that we don't have quite so much snow. We do have snow this week, but not so much. So I'm sure that if you want to ask questions about the weather, people can answer that too. Okay, there's also a very specific question. Is there a popular running path near the university or a running club? Are any of us? Oh, sorry, Vapu, you wanted to speak on this?
Yeah, no, actually, answering that question, yes, there is a running path. The name for it, I think, is called Hardebergaspåret. Basically, I think it's around a 20-kilometer path, not only for running, but also for biking and how do you say, like rollerblading and summer skiing. So that definitely exists. As for running associations, I'm not really 100% sure. I've not heard of such a thing. But definitely you can go for a jog with my friends. I know my runner friends have done that so many times. So yeah.
Maybe on the sports and fitness page, I can share it again. There might be some information for those who are interested in running. Great. Then the next question, I think maybe we covered this. Is there a cafeteria that the students have their meals in, or are students responsible for their own food? Well, this is kind of a different question. I guess it's more about whether we provide food for students. But as I hope that people kind of gathered when we were talking about the cost, you do have to pay for your food, but there are various places to get the food. So as we kind of already said, like you can go to Nations, you can go to local cafes, there are cafes on campus, but food is not provided by the accommodation. So that's just something to know. We don't have catered halls, as you would call it in the UK. So we can do that one. Oh, okay, now we have a couple of questions about healthcare for students in Lund. How is the process in finding a GP, and how does health insurance work, and what does it cover? Actually, there's a side note here. What does it cover for students who do not have a person number? Now, I think we really should start with for those who do have a personal number, because that's one situation. And then I can talk about the other option if you don't have a personal number. But yes, Aziz, would you like to talk about this? I mean, you already kind of spoke a little about the emergency situation that you were in before.
Yes, exactly. I have a personal number here. It's like if you are admitted to a like more than 1 year program, so you will get a personal number. But if your study will be less than 1 year, so you will not get a personal number. Instead of that, you will get another number that is I forgot the name but you will get another number. But I mean the price and the cost. I'm going to mention the price. If you are going to visit like when you reach here, you will get a specific doctor. So whenever you have a problem with your health, so you call the Vårdcentralen or health center. So they will set an appointment for you. It takes some time because getting an appointment is a little bit difficult in Sweden. But yeah, the cost is nearly 200 SEK for each appointment. And in 1 year, there's a limitation. There's a limitation for paying like for your health. so I can't remember the exact number, but the exact amount. But if you reach to that limitation amount, then the rest of the actually you don't need to pay for the rest of your problems and appointments. So it's a good option because like last year I remember that I like paid to the limitation and I didn't pay for the rest. So that was a good thing, I think, in about health situation.
Great. And then for those without a personal number, unfortunately, you do have to make sure that you're covered with the insurance. But I'm going to leave a link here for the information about the insurance, those who are covered by us, what that covers, and if you what you do basically if you need help at any point. So I'll just leave a link here for people to read about that. Okay, great. Another another question, and I like the way that you have phrased this. This person has written, exceptionally important question. Is there official Lund University merchandise? And the answer
Yes.
yes.
We have more than one store, actually. We have one next to the guest house or near Sparta. And we have another one inside the AF building, and of course, in the main library, you can also get merch. And I have everything. I actually sent home the cloth bags, and my little brother goes to school with one of the Lund backpacks because he's so proud. Yes, and hoodies and the beach towels, umbrellas, we have everything.
I love the pride that you're displaying with this merch. Okay. The next question, are there vacation periods for the 1-year master's program? Are any of you on a 1-year master's? No. Okay. Well, I can answer briefly about the way that it works though in general, and I think it's the same actually for 1-year and multiple year masters. It's that there are certain term dates, but in fact it's not so much that you get holidays, but you get breaks in between each course. I don't know if that's been everybody's experience on all of your programs, but that was my experience on my program. So what that meant is that in between each course, you get a small break where you've already handed in your assignment and your next course only begins in 1 week or so. So you get little breaks throughout the year. And there are also some periods where staff are usually on holiday, and in those times it's more like reading weeks or personal study. So that's been my experience. Does anybody want to add to that, perhaps Vapu?
Yeah, so I actually have the complete opposite. So my courses are shorter and back to back. But yeah, again, I'm in a 2-year master's program, so I can't comment on anything about 1-year master's programs. But we do have, everyone has the Christmas holiday, and we do, even though my courses are back to back, we do have like a few days in between. So you definitely get days off and times where it's not as intense if you do have a program like mine. So it's not the end of the world.
So maybe then the answer is to actually ask the program, and I will share the Unibuddy chat as well, which I think I've shared already a couple of times, but I'll share it again because it's brilliant. And there you can actually find a student from the specific masters that you're considering studying. We have almost all programs covered, so you should be able to find, and then you can ask them what it's like for them. So I'll put that here, and I'll share that again before the end of this session in a couple more minutes. So now we have 2 more questions left in the chat, which is great because we have 10 more minutes left, so we can answer these questions. There's a question, do you suggest applying for the scholarship before you apply or when you're already enrolled in the campus? Well, maybe I can actually answer that because it's not so much on student life, but basically for the Lund University Global Scholarship, the application period is just after the study application closes. So it's in February. So you must apply in February. And we currently are actually not hosting applications for current students. So we used to do that, but we will not be doing that in the future. So for that reason, I would say don't wait until you're enrolled in the campus. Certainly apply before and don't count on it later, because for LUGS, we will not be offering that in the future. However, there are obviously other scholarships available, including external scholarships, and they will all have their own process. So I will share a page about scholarships here for anybody who is interested in reading about both the Lund University scholarship and also some external options as well. And then we have the last question, which is, could you please talk about some traditional events such as festivals, national celebrations, etc.? What a lovely question. I love this. Okay, Vafu, you raised your hand. Would you like to talk about this?
Yeah, so I actually have a few in mind. One is coming up in a few weeks. It's called Santa Lucia. So Swedish people have this celebration in commemorance of Saint Lucia. And basically it's kind of like a Christmas themed holiday. And since I'm in a choir, I'm also performing some Christmas songs in the Lucia gown. It's like a white long gown with like a red ribbon usually, so it's very festive, very nice. And then during summer times, there's midsummer or midsommar, as Swedish people call it. So usually it's just very celebratory of the sun and outdoors, and you spend a lot of time together. Then I think a lot less common one that not a lot of people know of. It's during spring and it's called Valborg's Dag, so Valborg's Day. It's more common across the Nordic countries, and actually my name is Valborg in Finnish, so so yes, it's kind of like my celebration in a sense. So at least in Finland, it's traditionally for students. So very much a student celebration, end of April and beginning of May, where you go to parks and have fun, and yeah, just nice.
And there's
the bonfire.
bonfire as well.
Yeah. During midsummer, there's bonfire.
And in Valborg as well, I think there's a big
Mhm.
bonfire in the park. At least
Okay.
here. Yeah,
At least
maybe
here
it's
in Lund,
slightly
it
different.
has, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Never seen it in Finland, but I'm looking forward to that.
But
here.
then you must go to the one that we have in Lund, because then it's like your celebration and it's different. Anyway, okay. Yeah, I actually personally love those festivals as well. And one thing that I just want to add from my own perspective is that I love that in Sweden, these festivals are marking these points in the year. So like for me, it's very important because we have like Alla Helgonas in like October, which is like when you go to the cemetery and you light candles to sort of celebrate or like to honor your ancestors. And then for me, that's like, okay, now it's winter. And then when you go through to Christmas and then you go through to Valborg, and then Valborg is like, I think the idea is to burn away the last bit of the winter. So it's like, okay, now we're in spring, hopefully at that stage. So I love that we mark these quarters of the year, and that's something that not every country does, I think. So I feel it's very special. Marie, would you like to add something on this?
Yes, it's an event that is specific to Lund, which is the Lunda Carnival. Yeah, it happens every 4 years, and I was lucky enough to be here for it last year. Over 500,000 people from all over Sweden come for this 3-day carnival, which it was so surprising to me when I read about it. But when I saw it, it's true. There's so many people, and the whole area of Lundegård and walking up to our main library, everything there's filled with tents where you have games and food trucks, and there's music events, and there's just so many things happening. Also, there's merchandise for this Lunda Carnival in case you want to keep a little souvenir from this time. I even got a shirt and I wear it at home. Oh, the Lunda Carnival, yes. It is a really big event and is completely run by student volunteers. So if you're here during that time, you can also work in this huge Lund event.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, both of you, for describing those events. I just think that they're so special. So I think that now we almost ran out of the questions, and we managed to answer 51 questions. So that's really brilliant. Well done to all of you. And I just really hope that everybody who is attending today found this helpful and could ask their question. But if there is anybody who hasn't feels like their question hasn't been fully answered, or they want to talk more, they can certainly go to the Unibuddy page, which I've just linked in the chat, and speak to some of our current students, including these lovely ambassadors here today. And we also have, of course, the option to contact us as staff members. And if there's something that maybe you want to know about eligibility, or like specifically something that's more like technical, then feel free to contact us staff members. But if you want to ask about student life, the kinds of questions that we've been talking about today, then please go and speak to our lovely student volunteers. So I will just leave that link here. And now I don't know whether we lost Aziz. Are you still there? Maybe he had to go, but I would love to ask all of our students here with us today, if you could please finish with a final tip for the students who are watching the webinar. So some advice or something you just wish to share that they can know before they come here at Lund. So let's go around. We'll do Vapu, and then Benedict, and then Marie.
So I'd say my ultimate final tip is follow your heart and listen to your intuition. You know what the right choice for you is. And if that's Lund University, then we're all here to welcome you with open arms.
Thanks. And then Benedict.
I can say tip generally for university would be to be open to meeting new people and new ways of studying. And it's fine if it's a bit hard at the beginning, but just trust yourself that it does not get easier, but you get better with time. So just give yourself time and trust the process. I do not believe in that, but it's true.
Lovely. Thank you. And then Marie?
I completely agree with what you guys said. The one thing that I wished I would have heard before coming here is that you have to be kind to yourself. You know, everything in your life, at least for me, coming from a tropical country, on top of everything else changing, the weather and the darkness were a big challenge. And they still are, just like Benedict said, it's not like it gets easier, but you get better at it. Completely true. So just be kind to yourself, knowing that as a human being and the evolutionary process, adaptation takes time. So just be calm about it. And sometimes things seem, especially during the dark months, you may see like, oh no, this is not for me, something's happening, I don't know what to do. Don't rush your decisions during the winter time. I have to say that I wish I would have been told that it's normal not to feel your best in that period of time, and just enjoy your life while you're a student. I know that sometimes we look forward what is going to happen next, or I need to find a job, or how is my life going to look after I graduate? But this is the life that we have now. And Lund University offers so many things for us to enjoy our time here. So enjoy and prepare yourself and be kind to you and to others.
Wonderful and inspirational things here. I absolutely love, like, it doesn't get easier, but you get better. I'm going to use that in the future. Thank you, Benedict, for that one. And Aziz, you rejoined. So would you like to end the webinar with a tip or some advice that you would like to share with those listening today?
Well, I'm sorry. I'm right now in the lab, so doing some experiments. So
No problem. No problem. I'm glad you can still join us.
Yeah, but I think the best tip is like enjoy the life at the moment. Don't think about like futures too much. You need to think about it, but don't stress yourself for the future. Enjoy the life at the moment, and yes, specifically the thing is I'm going to say specifically in winter. I mean, when you see that, okay, it's you will see that like at 3 p.m. it gets dark and snowy, so you shouldn't stay alone in your home. I think it's better to like be with your friends and like these kind of things, not staying staying alone, because this causes maybe you depressed, this kind of things. So yeah, and gather information about the cold winter and also these kind of things before coming to Sweden. This is like, I think it's a good advice to gather information before coming to a new place.
Definitely. And now we just hinted at that a little, but it's worth just mentioning that, of course, people do often find it a little bit harder in the adjustment in the winter months. It's very true that, you know, if you push through it and you can like have some support for yourself, like Marie said, take it easy on yourself, like do the things that help you, and then just wait for the beautiful summer. Like it's so
Wow.
beautiful. It makes it all worth it.
We are waiting for that summer all year round. Yes, but it's so beautiful. Exactly. Yeah.
It is wonderful. But anyway, if you want to talk to the Unibuddies about that topic more, then of course the chat is open on the Unibuddy page. So I'm sure you might get now some more questions about that. But for now, I just want to say thank you very much to all of the student volunteers who are here with us as guests, and also to everybody who attended today. And I really hope that we will see some of you in Lund, and that we can welcome you and like see you in person very soon. So thank you again, everybody, for attending, and best of luck with your applications. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.